Welcome on, bienvenue, welcome. And, well, today, a lot of people talking about Bond, or have been for a while, you know, James Bond, and who's going to be the next James Bond, and all that stuff. And hey, thought, why don't I give my thoughts on the franchise going forward? I could just talk about it, but I thought that'd be a bit boring, so I've made a movie. I hope you enjoy it. Good morning, 00 Quits.
Yes. The name's Space. Ed Space. Sorry I'm late. Just went to pick up a cup of milky tea. And the way I carry about the office, it probably is shaken, not stirred. So, what crisis are we dealing with today? Today, Honey Mary?
Of course, Commander Space. Although that's Miss Honey Mary, if you don't mind. I know you're familiar enough with me, but there's every chance that whoever's watching this won't be. So, anyway, the point is that there's going to be a new actor playing James Bond. It's quite likely that a bit of a hullabaloo is going to break out. And that means we might have some trouble on our hands. Let's say, we're not, after all, Ed 6 is not exactly the most well-funded fictional intelligence agency, so yeah, I've had to get this equipment to work a little better. Anyway, your task is to intercept Ed Space before Ed Space gets locked in to a great big palaver. Now, we have reason to believe that other people might be involved, as we've already cited as we've already cited Ed from the Tanky timeline, fine, on our surveillance footage, along with the Ed from the Chad Force timeline, has also been cited in this area, in this general area of discussion. Come on, surveillance footage. Oh, and yes, we also evidence of the Ed from the Wokes Gold timeline. I hope you can all see that. As I say, this is a not very well funded fictional agency. And yes, come on, surveillance footage. Yes, you can do it. Come on. This running gag's getting a bit old. And of course, we also have evidence of Ed from the Normie timeline also getting involved in this. So, you'll probably encounter at least those 4 alternate versions of Ed when getting involved in this. So, just be careful. So, so that'll be your job, to basically provide reason and fact, to basically provide facts and logic. And of course we mean actual facts and logic, to this discussion of James Bond. So, good luck, 00 Quits, and I hope it goes well. Darling, I'm bored, sitting in the cinema, waiting for thrills to return. We would have fun, rompy action galore. Our escape left reality at home. Excitement, my dear, you'd be keeping the humdrum from here until the day, till the credits roll away. When you make out there are no more bad guys, we'd kiss the fun goodbyes. The franchise never dies. Joined you for your fun. Women, martinis, guns. Disbelief was suspended, fair's fair. Then you went punching down, pursuing the scandalous crowd. But it's not the only humor out there. It hurt sometimes, my dear. Shut away from you, though you were near. Until the day, till the credits roll away. When you make out there are no more bad guys, we'd kiss the fun goodbyes. The franchise never dies. Darling, my heart is torn apart. All around me there is only my grief. When you kiss, kiss and bang, bang, and it's gravity stang, just please suspend my disbelief. Soporific, my dear, the discourse I'm sitting through here. Until the day, till the credits roll away. When you make out there are no more bad guys, we'd kiss the fun goodbyes. The franchise never dies.
found the location. So I'll just do what we were taught to do back in Sandbagger training school. Just quietly infiltrate, sit down, cause as little fuss as possible. Yes. They won't notice I'm here. The thing is, that's just not what James Bond is about. The fact that he's a spy is, well, a bit of a carryover from the old days, but really, it's more about him as a man. He's got this powerful, macho charisma about him. This raw, this sort of sophisticated sexual energy that appeals to certain female fantasies, even if they never want to do it in real life. But, you know, it'd be basically the same as trying to do Charlie's Angels, but with men. It would just never work. I mean, you'd have to completely rebrand the franchise. You know, a female spy series, that could work. But with the pre-existing franchise, you've got the old fans who find that they weren't getting the thing that Bond had always appealed to them about. And a new fan base who are struggling to get into the continuity. Eh? So, really, I think, you know, there could be another spy who's a woman, but let's be honest, Ed Space will be a woman before James Bond is. Okay. Well, maybe that won't work for the next James Bond. But what about an ethnic minority, perhaps? You know, really to show everyone the, you know, diversity of this country. You know, perhaps celebrate help give people from a diverse ethnic background the ability to see heroes like them. After all, let's be honest, you know, the sort of generic white bread hero doesn't can feel rather alienating to someone who doesn't fit that traditional image. That's a bit I've just never really understood. You know, the whole heroes needing to look like someone for them to be able to relate to them. I mean, there are plenty of good actors of pretty much every ethnic group, you know, but, well, surely, you know, it's about what's on the inside, their inner character. I mean, you can relate to good deeds, whoever you are. Surely people can relate to anyone. I mean, unless of course you guys are very superficial about your analysis. I think there's a point you're missing in this. It's not about the context. It's not about valuing the colour of someone's skin over the context of their character itself, but there is a problem of a wider media context in which all the heroes are white, and you can have but villains can be perfectly diverse, or all the heroes are straight and we queer code our villains. And that's the problem. You know, in a society that others you, that treats you like you're not valuable, surely having a hero who is like you helps break down these kind of barriers. Exactly. Perhaps what we need is more of a revisionist take on the franchise. You think about it. You know, despite the fact that MI6 has done some pretty shady stuff in the past, it does seem a little bit odd to make these, to try and make them out to be the good guys now. You know, there have been a lot of countries they've destabilised over the years. Okay. But what does that say about now? What does that say about now? After all, you know, say, I know, Idris Elba or someone gets cast in the role of James Bond. You know, he's been touted for a long time. It's a fair enough example. And a young black guy in Britain goes see James Bond in the future and sees Idris Elba as James Bond. He's not joining the MI6. If he decides to join MI6 after seeing him, he's not joining the MI6 of the 1960s. He'd be joining the MI6 of the 2020s, or even later. You know, things do change. I'm not saying that things haven't changed. But there are some things that haven't. After all, there is quite a bit of systemic racism in this country, and in a lot of other countries. And British foreign policy has been fairly interventionist in various countries. Perhaps, as I was thinking more of, was something like, you know, perhaps Bond could be a bit more reflective of, you know, some of these questions of maybe it's not always a good idea to intervene in the internal politics of other countries, especially in a manner that's destabilising and in so many ways often promotes the interests of a few. I mean, the TV show Spooks allowed for a lot more of a grey area, a lot more nuance. So I feel that it just wouldn't be right if, they just put an ethnic minority on the front of James Bond without addressing that sort of core assumption that James Bond has, that basically ultimately they are the good guys and that they're all ultimately doing the right thing. That's just my problem with all this. What has everyone got against the hero-villain narrative all of a sudden? It's like, you know, everything's fine. You know, good guy, bad guy, love interest, some funny side characters, good to go. Ugh. Ugh. And now suddenly, you know, good heroes like John Wayne, you know, people with decent values, you don't seem to like that anymore. More? Anyway, you know the villain's bad, you know the hero's good, and you can just enjoy a movie about the good guy beating the bad guy, getting the pretty girl, woman, sorry. I know. You know, and having his happy ever after till the next one, if it's a series. No. I mean, you guys just, mate, it can be black, it can be white, it can be Chinese, it can be Indian, whatever. But I just don't get why we have to have this constant attempt to break down that sort of hero-villain normalcy, because we all know it works. And hey, the fans, that's what the fans want. But it's never been as simple as that. Because you're just building these normative values. An inherent bias into the work. I mean, just the way you phrased it. You know? You know? So sort of correct. Yes, you sort of corrected yourself a little bit, but still the initial way of phrasing it, you know, the good guy beats the bad guy and gets the girl. I mean, isn't it kind of infantilizing? Or, you know, kind of insulting for all the women in the audience? Not only to have their maturity sort of forgotten, even if you didn't mean it, you just think, just a moment's thought perhaps. And why are female characters reduced to either bossy villains and annoying authority figures that only get in the way, or sexual prizes? Just look at the James Bond films of the 60s and the 70s. Not exactly. And so these are rather alienating in so many ways. And this isn't a new thing either. I mean, you just look at how Live and Let Die was received. Even back in 1973, when the film came out, people were questioning the use of black stereotypes. So that is one of these great big problems with the hero-villain narrative in these kind of situations. You do get this sort of... You can also get this, even if it's unintentional, this kind of othering, reducing people into, as opposed to good and evil, kind of becoming us and them. So it's one of those things to be careful of, and one of those flaws in the hero-villain narrative, because after all, why can't heroes in popular media be female, black, queer, or why not? Well, that's the problem, isn't it? You know, they always, you know, it's just one of those things, just seem to keep bringing their identity into it. I mean, I wouldn't mind if it was just that the character happens to be black. Like, say, Luther. Or, you know, or a woman, or LGBTQI plus. Yeah, I don't mind. I ain't got a problem. But no, it's just one of those things. Always, you get these interest groups. You know, I mean, you look at No Time to Die. .007 is replaced by a black woman. Or The Last Jedi weren't not just a female Jedi. I mean, let's face it, there was a female Jedi in Revenge of the Sith. But The Last Jedi was just however many hours of woke branded SJW special interest groups, basically boss babe propaganda. And I know why. You just can't be doing. But who could be doing with stuff like that? Okay, some facts here. Really, they didn't make much of the fact that she was a black woman. Also, yeah, I mean, the main focus of her character is being very by the book. Personally, I think they underutilised the character, to be honest, but it is James Bond, so fair enough, I guess the story has to be about James Bond. But thing is, It's not some super woke movie. You know, when you watch it, in a way, it's one of those things. It's a simple pairing of a brash, old-fashioned, doesn't really do authority figure kind of person, paired up with a individual who's very much more straight-laced by the book and understanding of how things are meant to be done now, who eventually learn to respect each other and somewhat grow together as characters to the point where, she hands back the 00. Seven designation without any prompting or it even being discussed, because that's a sign that the two of them have learned to respect each other. Sorry, hey, I managed to stay awake for all of No Time to Die. You know, after Quantum of Solace, there's certain bits that when I rewatched it on the telly, I was like, I don't remember that. Did I doze off during that bit? And yeah, and since I fell asleep during The Last Jedi, maybe I missed a lot of the whole boss babe propaganda that you talked about, but you know, having read plot summaries of it to fill in the gaps for when I'd fallen asleep, and from what I remember of the film in the cinema, it was incredibly boring. But apart from that, it's hardly propaganda trying to advocate the supremacy of women, as you seem to be implying. I don't know where exactly you got the idea that it was doing that from, personally, because the entire movie shows a matriarchal resistance being beat. And this is even after they destroyed Starkiller Base in The Force Awakens. So despite being what you'd think would be in a pole position, they're actually reduced to what's essentially a delaying action, buying enough time for them to flee to another planet. Their initial planned destination they can't get to because the hyperdrive's broken and the fuel's running low, so the First Order fleet is going to be following them till they run out of fuel, at which point they'll just get shot out the stars. And then their plan of getting away from their main ship using little escape pods is thwarted by the fact that the First Order have a decloaker. Then they get to this other planet where their supposedly secret base is surrounded and besieged, and their plan to destroy the beam that's going to open them up and lead to the First Order just taking out their last refuge and killing all of them fails. And then they're delayed by essentially Luke projecting his spirit to protect them, to buy them enough time for Rey to just come in with the Millennium Falcon and rescue a very small number of them. So, I mean, you could even argue they are saved by the spirit of a man. And then, by the end of the movie, about 95% of their starting forces are killed, missing, or captured, and and they've been reduced to one starship, as far as we can tell at the end of the movie. So, where exactly is it meant to be, as you call it, boss babe propaganda? I'm not getting you, is all I'm saying. And, yeah, and as you said, you don't have to make it right like that. As you said, Luther, the fact that the main character's black essentially is irrelevant in virtually all of the show. I think there's one episode where he's dealing with a white supremacist, but other than that, So, really, that's more about bad writing. You know, not really dealing with a character on a deeper level. Or, you know, not necessarily bad writing, because you could write a plot where identity is important and write it well. After all, I mean, the movie Pride, which was based on true events, but still, would be kind of... basically, you really can't make that a film where the protagonist being gay doesn't matter without destroying the whole point. But you see, you can write plots about diversity or identity well, you can write them badly, you can write plots that are not about identity well, and you can write them badly. Although, to be quite frank, what I think James Bond needs is to perhaps, you know, step back from reality a little. Maybe use some kind of past. Alternate 80s might be good. Not just because I like the style of the era, but also so it doesn't damage, also so you have a bit more freedom to write. After all, sci-fi and fantasy can more easily avoid some of these things because you're not basically, if you're not using the real world issues don't have to be there. I mean, and let's face it, I'm not going to tell you the entire plot of No Time to Die. And so, trying to explain this really scary device, and it doesn't need explaining if it's consistent. You know, if it works by a consistent set of rules, it's easy to suspend your disbelief. Because you could always get the problem the other way, that there's so little explanation of how any of this is meant to work that you're just thinking, it's gonna be alright. They're gonna find a way to make sure that that everything goes well. But ultimately, things explain too much, and then you start finding the holes in it. Explain too little, you know, too little that there's no internal consistency. So it just seems like, yeah, well, you're just gonna then everything feels contrived. It's you know, plus, you know, if you want to watch some serious, if you want to watch some serious spying videos, films, stuff like that, then yeah, Spooks. Or The Sandbaggers. But I just think maybe James Bond would be better off if they... Because that's and that's the point about the sanitizing. But really, it seems almost like James Bond, because it's become more self-aware, when you've still got the idea that ultimately the MI6 world and all that stuff they're doing, because they're ultimately the good guys, they're going to be even more sanitized than they were if it wasn't, because you could just think, well, it's not real. Because after all, it all feels a bit daft. If it all feels a bit daft and a bit far-fetched, then it's easier to just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Good morning, 00 Quits. It seems that you have been involved in my plans. After all, it was a safe bet. Get everyone right, get the speculation talking about James Bond. It's a popular topic. Throw a little spanner, as it were, in the works. The left wing think that the right are just rattling the saber, while the right wing think that the left are just being belligerent. All the while, we get excellent coverage. Yeah. Look. I think everyone gets the fact that you liked Tomorrow Never Dies. Please don't interrupt. I'm trying to monologue. As I was saying, there's no conspiracy. Just simple economics. Because you can tap into the fight-or-flight reflex to set people against each other. Celt versus Saxon, man versus woman, black versus white. It's all very simple. And it's a good way of generating revenue. Because people crave this sort of instinctive reaction. I defend myself. Create the panic. Tread on the fight or flight reflex. Get it moving. The sales come in. One of the easiest sells there is. But now, what do? You make happy little videos. Open stuff. Even now.
you couldn't help but try and portray all the sides in your video as reasonable, or people with some grievances. Yeah. But that does not fit the algorithm. The algorithm likes conflict. Yes. Yes. Terrify people into thinking they're under attack. Provoke a conflict. Watch them fight it out while I'm the real winner, because, of course, none of the sides can ever actually win. It's just how things work. No conspiracy. No one deliberately thinks about these things. It's just simple incentives. So, do you expect my channel to talk doom and gloom? No, Mr. Space. I expect your channel to die. It's not Mr. Space. What? Stop right there. Good thing you happened to leave this gun lying around. So, you're under arrest. Oh no, this button just opens the time portal. As you can now see, I didn't mean I expected Ed Space's YouTube channel to die. I meant it would die in the more, sense of just peter out, fail to exist anymore, and bye! Well, that was an anticlimax if ever I saw one. Oh well. Vem vaiam eroscumne, vireta lomne terracumne, libertare. Well, that magic should have freed you up. So now, let's just head home and have a cuppa. well, hope you enjoyed the movie, and hope you have a nice day, and whatever your thoughts about James Bond and all that, it was lovely having you here.